Takashi 6ix9ine is one of the hottest and most controversial rappers in hip-hop. While his new album tops the charts, he's fighting federal charges for his freedom.
You got the right one.
You see Treyway in big letters on the music video set of Takashi 6ix9ine's platinum single Fifi with Nicki Minaj. Treyway is the nickname for the 9 Trey Gangsta Blood set of the United Blood Nation. It's also the gang named in the federal racketeering, weapons, and drug charges against Takashi 6ix9ine and his co-defendants. After his November 26th arraignment, his attorney Lance Lazaro told me in an exclusive interview that Takashi was not a gang member.
We met them in September of 2017 at a video shoot. That's how we met them. But using them on your music video, using them as part of your management team, using them as part of your security doesn't make you part of a gang.
As a marketing tool, the gang imagery has served Takashi well. Fifi has been viewed more than 500 million times. His song Gummo is full of the Blood's signature red bandanas and dancers throwing up set signs. His promotional genius and music have made him a millionaire superstar in under 2 years at the age of 22.
When it comes to hip hop, we do have an outlaw culture where certain bad behavior is rewarded and actually propels your career forward. But when it comes to 6ix9ine, a previous charge specifically for sexual abuse involving a minor has a lot of people really concerned.
Takashi 6ix9ine, whose legal name is Daniel Hernandez, was on probation for 4 years on that charge and sentenced to 1,000 hours of community service. But his legal team of Lazaro and Don Florio convinced a judge to re-sentence him to time served, effectively closing that case. Now a path is cleared for them to make a bail application on the federal charges, which are very serious.
Prison is hard for anybody, especially someone who hasn't done jail time before. No one wants to be in jail ever. So the fact that he is in jail, he's taking it, like a trooper, but he wants to come home to his family and his daughter.
100% not guilty. He says he's innocent, and I think when the facts come out, it will be proven.
So what are the possibilities for Takashi's future and the case? Let's find out what our panel has to say. Joining me is Black Rose. He's a reality TV star on the BET show Hustle in Brooklyn. He's the CEO of the Black Cartel record label, and he's also was formerly incarcerated. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Okay.
We really appreciate it. Also with us is Soumya Krishnamurthy. She's a music journalist. She writes for major outlets like Billboard, Double XL, and many others. Soumya, great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Also with us is Joe Tacopina. He's a criminal defense attorney. He represents many big-name hip-hop artists, including Jay-Z and Meek Mill, and he's also a former prosecutor. Joe, great to have you with us.
Thanks,
Thank you so much. Soumya, let me ask you this. How do you describe Takashi's career and where he's at?
I mean, Takashi is one of the most controversial figures in hip-hop for sure in recent time. In 2017, he got on a lot of people's radar with his song Gummo, and I think now the YouTube video has well over 300 million views. So from day one, everyone was talking about him, his look, his style, his aggressiveness. But I think the same fans, who kind of liked that style, many people didn't like it. He was kind of off-putting. People wondered, is this kind of a fraud? Is this something like a front he's doing just to sort of get into hip hop? But at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. I mean, his record with Nicki Minaj has over 500 million views on YouTube. I mean, the numbers keep coming in, and his debut album debuted at the top of the Billboard charts.
So a big presence, whether people like it or not.
Yeah. It's like you either hate him or love him, or love to hate him. Can't ignore him.
You can't ignore him. Joe, a lot of people also thought that the alleged criminal activity, because we heard little reports, over the last couple years, really involved in shootings or present at situations where there were shootings, and people thought, well, that's just a little bit of a little street culture. Maybe he's hanging out with the wrong people. Maybe the wrong people are trying to hang out with him. But then when this federal indictment came down and the charges, and he was picked up on them, it seemed very, very serious. Is it that serious?
Oh, it's more than that serious. I mean, this is lights out. He's facing life in prison if convicted of these charges. Look, the federal prosecutors, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, especially the Southern District of New York, I mean, they don't play around. This is not NYPD who arrested him on some, maybe trumped up charge or something like that. This is, the federal prosecutors and the U.S. Attorney's Office, Department of Justice. When they come after you, there's generally something there. I'm not saying every person charged is guilty, and I certainly don't know whether he is or isn't. But it's a major problem. It's a major case. And if you read a very detailed press release by the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York when he made this arrest, when they made that arrest, it detailed, very substantial detail, which is a little unusual, all the crimes that were committed and that he's responsible for, including finding, an assault rifle in his
An
house.
AR-15 in his apartment that was allegedly used in one of the shootings.
Yep.
And they provided the photos to the media, which are on my Instagram, and that was very unusual that they
It seems like
do that.
it's unusual, and I quite frankly I don't like it because to me it's if you read their press release, it's like 15 paragraphs of how he's guilty and how these guys are guilty, and then at the end there's like one line saying, "Oh, by the way, these are just merely
innocent.
charges,
Right,
and
right.
you're innocent until proven guilty." Yeah,
and
right.
here's the pictures, and here's this,
Right, here's this.
and here's.
So
and
I mean,
here's
I think the case should be played out in the courtroom, not in the press. But unfortunately, that's our society today.
All right, well, we'll unpack it and break it down a little bit more. Black Rose, in terms of what was your reaction when you heard about Takashi? Because there were a lot of people on the streets that were like, "Oh, he's no real gangster. It's just it's all for videos. It's all for publicity." What was your reaction?
Well,
as someone that has been in that life.
Well, my reaction, when I don't listen to his music, you know what I mean? I only listen to gangster music, you know what I mean? So I never really considered him to be, you feel what I'm saying? I really consider him to be more of the industry, you know what I mean? Than have a post on the streets, though, right? But when I heard about that situation, it was alarming for me because the fact that the government, the powers of the government to just, sweep in and okay, for me, gang life, for me, I've been on the front lines of gang life. I did 10 years in prison.
On a manslaughter charge, you told us.
On manslaughter.
So serious.
So I understand the necessity of the bond, and I know that Takashi, like all the other gang members that I do know that their position in life is only a response to the environment they were brought up in. So now we're convicting these people for trying to develop bonds and move through life, strong. I'm not justifying whatever kind of criminal behavior they did, but they were just responding to the conditions that plagued them. You know what I mean?
And that were out there. But the thing that a lot of people were shocked at too, and everybody, please feel free to jump in, is we saw cases like around the Troy Ave shooting. There was repercussions for a lot of artists, especially New York artists after that. They weren't booked in venues, events were canceled, shows were canceled because it was a tremendous fear. With this, it hasn't hurt his record, it hasn't hurt his popularity at all, it seems.
Well, I think because there's, like it was mentioned before, some people may actually like him, or some people may just be interested in seeing who this person is that's now under federal charges for racketeering and murder and things of that nature. It's like people like to watch a train wreck, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
And he's very much kind of the king of controversy. I think 6ix9ine knows what kind of gets people going, what gets them angry, and he plays to that. And I think, these charges are just the most recent in a long string of incidents. I mean, it feels like everywhere this kid goes, there's something, whether it be alleged violence, a previous sexual abuse charge, which I think for many people in the industry put a huge kind of black mark on his record. And there are certain fans and even industry insiders who say we just won't support him. Certain media outlets don't cover him because of that, previous charge. And I think now looking at what's going on and the severity of it, we have yet to see what the future is. I mean, right now he may have a hit record, but the industry also forgets very easily. And 6 months from now, a year from now, we may not be talking about him.
Right, and the sensitivity about those kind of charges now too plays a big role. We're going to take a short break. This is Street Soldiers. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. We'll be right back.
I live by that old murder. I live by that code. You know what I mean? So certain things we just can't say.
Let's talk about the social media aspect of this, because in Black Rose, I want to ask you about this as somebody that was out there on on the streets. In this case with Takashi 6ix9ine, the prosecutors are using social media videos that he posted of these alleged crimes. Do real gangsters do that?
Nah, no. I mean, sometimes people, the desire to motivate others, it all depends on the intention, because you do have some people out there that just want to motivate the streets and motivate the youth, you know what I mean, and give them something to aspire for. But then you have those who come on, man. If you playing in the game, you know that there's a certain code that you you live by, and some people don't uphold those codes. You know what I mean? And then they're in violation for not upholding those codes by living by certain principles. And that's what we're seeing today in America. The gang culture that we see in America, we're seeing a negative side because of the trickle-down effect of the information being fed to the younger guys. But if suppose that there was a different type of structure in place with leadership in place to uplift these kids, you know what I mean, then it could be potentially.
So there's a lot
thing,
missing in these communities, to be sure.
Yeah.
But the issue comes back to the social media aspect. It's also a generational thing too, because if you've grown up with it, they don't see anything wrong with taking a picture while somebody's shooting. And Joe, there've been many cases like this, that many arrests that have been made and convictions because the evidence is right there on the gram.
That's what it is. I mean, that's what happened with him in his state case with the sexual, abuse case with the minor. He posted a video of an underage girl performing a sex act. I mean, it's like, I guess people just think social media is, something that they could expose themselves on in their life, but people watch that stuff, and law enforcement does. I mean, when I have a case and I have a witness who's testifying against my client, the first thing I do is have my investigative team look at all the social media posts that person's ever made. And I inevitably will find some great fodder for cross-examination. People seem to forget that these things last forever. I mean, I have a case right now where a guy is on trial for manslaughter because he posted an admission on social media, on a Facebook message exchange to somebody. That's the case, and it boggles my mind. But unfortunately,
that people would do that and
and
incriminate themselves. But that's the way it is. So
it's generational. You know, I mean,
Yep.
I think nowadays our whole lives are on our smartphones. So it's what you eat, who you hang out with, what you're thinking. So of course, it's going to be what alleged crime you commit. You know, that's just kind of par for the course. But I think, again, with Takashi, when people saw that he would do these things, I think a lot of his defenders said, look, there's no way he's really a part of a gang. He can't be a part of street life because this is like, street 101, like keep your mouth shut, move in silence, and you're just telling everyone your business, so maybe it's a marketing ploy. And I think that's really the question that we don't know the answer to. Is 6ix9ine really, who he says he is, or is it who we think that he is? And I think right now his lawyer is arguing that, it was just for entertainment. He's just an artist.
Joe, his attorney Lance Lazaro, who I interviewed in the interviews on my Instagram, he said that he was being targeted because he's a hip hop artist. He also said that he did not meet. The indictment says that the other co-defendants have been involved in these activities going back to 2013. His 6ix9ine's lawyer says that he did not even know them until 2017 when they showed up on the video shoot. What's your take on that?
My take is something's going on, and what I mean by that is this: Lance Lazaro is a very good lawyer, has represented him in these other matters in state court. Initially was saying those things that you just said, but recently has not said anything. When questioned as to whether he has a deal with the prosecutors, he's declined to comment. Now, if you're saying this case is trumped up and my client's being targeted because he was a hip-hop artist and told he didn't associate, you keep fighting the case. I mean, he started fighting the case publicly, now he's not fighting the case publicly. So, then there's these circumstances. The prosecutor in the case had him moved first to solitary confinement, protective custody in the Bureau of Prisons, and then he was moved completely out of the Bureau of Prisons custody, brought to a place where it's predominantly meant for cooperators.
Right,
okay?
exactly.
He's not in Bureau of Prisons custody anymore.
Near Kennedy Airport.
And the prosecutor said in this case that members of his sect of the Bloods were looking to super violate him. Super violate means commit an act of serious violence and even killing, okay? So, and then you couple that with what Lance Lazaro said about, well, he didn't know these people till 2017, so like a year ago.
Until he started making his first
And
video.
he went on a morning radio show, Takashi himself, a few months back, and sort of distanced himself from these guys, okay, which has these guys really unhappy with him.
Right.
And they're not good guys to have unhappy with, I mean,
well,
they're
they're older, more experienced, and have more criminal records.
And they kill. And
kill.
And you can't have it both ways, right?
You can't have it both ways.
Minute, we're together, but now I don't know him.
But let me ask you about this incident, too, because there was one incident, that shooting that was around Bedford in Brooklyn.
Yep.
This is facts. He went to a local police precinct told them he was afraid. And then when they went to go, which they would, how they would act in the precinct to go get the sergeant, get the supervisor, or whatever, he changed his mind and then left. So Black Rose, is it possible that these veteran, let's just say more experienced street dudes that are his co-defendants, that they saw him as, let's make him one of our own and he can make us some money?
Oh, man,
in other words, a shakedown.
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm so used to the code that I can't even answer that. You know what I mean? I can't. I'll be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because that kind of, you feel what I'm saying? Like I can't answer that. But certain things are.
Is that possible?
Is that possible?
Does that make sense? Does that sound like something that you've heard before?
Well, it's an open investigation, so I don't want to really make any. I don't want to influence public opinion, you know what I mean? But so I can't really answer that because
let me ask you this then, because he is as Joe said, he is in a place where it's a facility, a very secure facility that's used for people who who become cooperating witnesses, basically snitches is what they would be called on the street. How much in danger is he, if that is in fact the case?
Well, I'm saying, I don't know if it's involuntary solitary, you know what I mean? I don't know his situation. I know he's a high-profile case, and they usually put them in solitary.
Right.
But they moved him to a new location. I don't know. I really don't make any comments on that situation because I live by that old murder. I live by that code. You know what I mean? So certain things we just can't. We can't say.
The optics aren't good though, right? Regardless.
Exactly.
I mean, none of us know what's happening, but again,
you just said it right.
It's looking outside, looking in. It's everything that Joe said seems very plausible, and again, perception is reality. So I think 6ix9ine really created this big myth around him, and it furthered his career, but now he's seeing the flip side of that, right? Like when things get real, this can happen and people will, turn on you, whether it be fans, people in the industry, people around you in your circle. One minute you guys were all, really good together, and now you're seeing, cracks in that facade.
All right, we're going to continue talking about this case. I'm Lisa Evers, your host for Street Soldiers. We'll be right back. Black Rose, when you look at Takashi, how he's moving, I don't want you to break your code, but do you look at him and think like, okay, this is a guy that could be a lot more knowledgeable. Let's put it in a nice way, knowledgeable about street life and the whole street culture than we would assume.
I look at it not from the surface level. I look at it from a deeper level. I look at 6ix9ine as a response to a condition that he was living in. I don't look at him as to be a criminal. I look at it as survival. So I know guys who are in groups, who hang out, who bang together, who do whatever. But are these men bad men? No, I don't think he should be facing life in prison for what they're saying he's doing.
So just final word on his career and how the industry, like, what's your vibe on how people are feeling about him right now?
I mean, I think right now it's very divided. You have some people who are still very much hoping that he makes it through and that this is just kind of a teaching moment, and they really do see talent in him. And again, for whatever it's worth, he has the numbers this week, and he put out a very strong commercial record. And then others have kind of, wiped their hands clean. Like, look, we've given this kid so many chances. He's facing very serious charges, and, it's kind of like the life you live catches up to you. So I think right now it's very divided. We're just kind of sitting back, seeing what happens. But I think more than anything for other artists, it really is a cautionary tale of you can be on top of the world one day and then the next day it kind of all comes crashing down.
All right. I want to thank you all for being with us for this episode of Street Soldiers. Black Rose, we appreciate it. Somia Krishnamurthy, great to have you. Thank you so much. And Joe Takapina, great to have you on Street Soldiers.
Sorry I got all dressed up for you guys.
We appreciate
I didn't know this was on camera, by the way. I thought it was a radio interview.
We appreciate it. And remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace.